Yeah, welcome back to the in the last lecture we have seen the basics of induction machine, how the power gets converted into torque. It's rather how it gets translated into torque, and we have also derived this equation, the torque speed equation, which is not directly in terms of speed but it comes in terms of slip. This equation is not a very straightforward equation. If you plot this, we will get the actual Cara. But from this complicated shape, we will not be able to predict the shape of the T omega curve. So we will have to simplify this to understand how the shape of this T omega curve will be. So in what way we can simplify this? Before we do that, remember the significance of slip, which was discussed at the last part of the last lecture. As the machine gets loaded, the slip of the machine will increase, thereby resulting in a drop in speed. And it is because of this increase in slip, the flux cutting increases, more current will be induced, more torque will be developed. That which means the machine will adjust to its new torque, a new higher amount of torque, only by sacrificing speed or by increasing slip. So slip is a very important parameter, and in our torque equation, instead of speed, slip appears. But remember, slip or speed is more or less same, which means if we know the slip, we can definitely find out what is the speed. So that's it. So we will see what will be the shape of this T omega curve. Here, what is the normal range of slip for any induction machine? Normal range of slip for any induction machine. It will be usually 2% to 8%. That's it. Ideally, it will be less than or approximately 5 to 6%, not more than that, in normal running conditions. That is because the induction machine, it can be regarded as more or less a constant speed machine, because from no load to full load, the drop in speed is not substantial. Okay, so in that sense, it can be considered like a DC shunt machine where the speed is more or less constant. It has a small drooping error. Other than that, it can be considered more or less a constant. So that's why slip is a small quantity, 0.02 to 0.08. This is in percentage, or 0.02 to 0.08. Now, if that is the case, what assumption can we make? Your R2 dash by S. Since S is a very small quantity, this will be substantially larger than RT, also XT, as well as X2 dash. See, R2 dash is comparable with these quantities, but R2 dash divided by S. So, for example, if S is 0.02, this will be multiplied by a factor of 50. 50 times R2 dash will be substantially larger than RT, XT or X2 dash. So, since they appear as a algebraic sum, we can ignore all these parameters and retain only R2 dash by S, which means your torque becomes 3 by omega S Vt square R2 dash by S by this and this gets ignored, and only this will be remaining, R2 dash by S the whole square. This will get cancelled, and what is remaining is 3 by omega S Vt square S by R2 dash. This is a simplified equation. Actually, this is not equal to, I can only say it is approximately similar to 3 by omega S into Vt square S by R2 dash. This is a constant, and this is also a constant, and hence torque is proportional to S and Vt square. This is a much more simplified equation compared to this, and from this we can predict the shape of the T omega curve. Remember the assumption we made for small values of slip. For small values of slip. As the slip increases, this equation will not hold true. So remember, this treatment is valid only for small values of slip. So this is what we have seen. T is approximately this. And we can say this Vt is the applied voltage, that which remains a constant. That is the grid voltage, or the voltage we apply, that remains a constant. R2 dash is a constant. 3 and omega s, this is synchronous speed. This remains constant so long as frequency is constant. So all the terms are constant except for slip, or torque is proportional to slip. Remember, for small values of s. Now remember, speed varies from 0 to omega and torque from 0 and along the x-axis. If this is your synchronous speed, this value is your synchronous speed. How will the slip vary then? This is the variation in omega, and the variation in slip will be corresponding to omega s. When speed is equal to omega s, slip will be 0. And when the speed is 0, your slip will be 1. And this is the variation in slip. Speed is from 0 to omega s, and slip is from 0 to 1 in this direction, and this is from this direction. That's why I said either speed or slip, that doesn't make a big difference, because once we know slip, we can find out speed or vice versa. Now, torque is proportional to slip, which means it is an equation of a straight line. Now, from where will it start? At synchronous speed, what will be the value of torque? At omega s means by its sum means the rotor is rotating at the same speed as synchronous speed, which means there is no relative motion between stator and rotor. There is no flux linkage cutting by rotor conductors, and hence, since there is no flux cutting, d phi by dt is 0, no induced EMF, thereby no currents, no torque, which means torque will be 0. That you can also do by substituting s is equal to 0 here. Torque will be 0. So torque will be 0, which means your equation, your torque will start from this. Let me draw it with a different ink. Yeah, it is an equation of a straight line. Something like this. At least for some of you it would have struck that this is similar to that of a DC machine, a separately excited DC machine, which has a drooping characteristics. This is similar. Remember, we are talking about small values of slip. After that, now slip is increasing. It was 0 here. Now it has increased and reached some value here, which is still small. That's why the torque equation has a shape of a straight line. After that, what happens? Will it continue to be a straight line? To answer that, I think you would have learned in your machines course that the shape in this is straight line only for initial portion. After that, it will reach its maximum point, corresponds to maximum torque, after which it will have a shape something like this. And what is this? The torque when speed is equal to 0, which is your starting torque, and this is your maximum torque. And the slip at which the maximum torque occurs, let us call it as S max. Remember, S max is not the maximum value of slip. Remember, maximum value of slip is 1, minimum is 0. When I say S max, it is not the maximum value of slip, but it is the slip at which the torque takes its maximum value. This is the point of maximum torque, and slip corresponding to that one is called S max. So as slip increases until S max it exhibits a linear straight line kind of a cara, then it will decrease. This is the shape of torque speed cara of a induction machine, and this shape is similar to a separately excited DC machine until this portion, a drooping straight line cara. Whereas DC machine will not have this kind of a cara, induction machine will definitely have. Now let's see why the shape is like this instead of a straight line. That is because the assumption we made, this is true, this equation of a straight line is true only for small values of s, and that is no longer true once the slip reaches somewhere here. Close to this area it is true because slip is approximately small, very small, whereas as slip increases this equation will not hold. Because of that reason, this is not the equation to be followed for this portion of the curve. We will have to go back to the original equation itself, which is now we have defined the term Tmax and Smax. Can we find it out analytically? That is possible. What is to be done? This is a torque is a function of slip. Everything else remains constant. R2 dash, RT, XT, X2 dash, VT, omega s are all constants, which means the only variable is the slip here, appearing in the numerator as well as the denominator. So torque is a function of slip. So what is to be done to find out the maximum torque? Just differentiate torque with respect to slip and equate it to 0. Once you do that, probably you would have done it in your machines course. I am not doing it again. It's a cumbersome process, which if I have to do it in paper, you will get that. If you differentiate this one with respect to slip and equate it to 0, you will get R2 dash by S max. If you do it properly, you will get this plus or minus RT square X2 plus XT square. Or rather, the slip at which maximum torque occurs is given by R2 dash by RT square plus X2 plus XT. Now obviously it is dimensionless and it is just a number. It will be less than 1 and more than 0. And this is the value of slip at which torque takes its maximum value. And once you substitute S max in the original equation, you will get the maximum value of the torque. Maximum torque possible as 3 by, remember there is a plus or minus here, 2 omega s Vt square RT plus or minus RT square plus XT plus X2 dash whole square. This is the equation of maximum torque, and this is the slip at which maximum torque occurs. This I am pretty sure you would have done in your machines course. These are two important results to have. If you observe carefully, what is the significance of this plus or minus, I will explain in later classes. For the time being, just bear that this is plus or minus. What is the relevance of minus value, I will explain a little later. See, something interesting is there. That is the value of the rotor resistance R2 dash. It does not appear in the equation of maximum torque, which means the maximum torque an induction machine can develop is independent of the rotor resistance. However, the speed or slip at which the maximum torque occurs is definitely determined by your rotor resistance. This is a peculiar but interesting result. Once again, I will explain. The value of maximum torque is independent of rotor resistance, but the speed or slip at which the machine develops its maximum torque is definitely determined by the value of its rotor resistance. Or rather, in English, if we say, just by adding some rotor resistance, I am talking about wound rotor induction machine, just by adding some rotor resistance, you cannot increase the value of the maximum torque. You cannot, because that is independent of R2 dash. However, you can change the speed at which the maximum torque occurs by adding resistance to the rotor circuit. Okay. So once again, the speed or slip at which the maximum torque occurs is this, and it is determined, and definitely rotor resistance has a part in that. Whereas the value of the maximum torque is absolutely independent of the value of rotor resistance. This is an important result to be remembered. Now, what we have seen that the machine, the torque starts from 0 value when the speed is synchronous speed or slip is 0, follows a straight line for small values of slip, reaches its maximum value. We have seen what is S max and what is T max. Then why does the torque decrease after reaching its maximum torque? We will see it. Before we discuss that part, let's see what will be the shape of the current. Now, what is the equation of current? I am talking about the rotor current I2 dash. I2 dash is nothing but this can be obtained from your equivalent circuit. That simplified equivalent circuit what we have seen in the last lecture. R2 dash by S this is the nature of current. Now, what is to be remembered is that Vt is the applied terminal voltage which is constant. Not a terminal voltage, it is Thevenin voltage, but that is constant because the applied voltage is constant. R2 dash is constant, RT is constant, X2 dash and XT are all constants. Again, I2 dash is a function of slip. The only variable coming here is in the slip, and that appears in the denominator of this fraction. Now, S will vary from 0 to 1. S will vary from 0 to 1. What will happen as S increases? As S increases, what will happen? Earlier it was close to 0. This was a very large quantity and the denominator was pretty large. So I2 would be small value. As slip increases, what will happen? Slip increases. Slip increases. This term will come down. R2 dash by S will come down. Everything else remaining constant. The denominator will come down. What will happen to I2 dash? Current will continue to increase. As slip further increases, what will happen? This term further reduces. The denominator further reduces. Current even more increases. This process continues until S becomes equal to 1, which means there is nowhere current reaching a maximum value and returning like torque. Current monotonically increases. Current monotonically increases with slip. That is, as slip increases, there is no turning back for current. It continuously increases. If we plot the same thing, let me plot with red ink. At S is equal to 0 or at synchronous speed, what will be the value of current? The same logic can be applied. At synchronous speed, there is no relative motion between stator and rotor conductors. There is no relative motion between these two fluxes. There is no EMF induced. Since there is no induced EMF, there is no current, and that's why there is no torque. So current is also 0 when slip is 0. And unlike a torque, a current will continues to increase only. There is no going back. It will continues to increase. It is not straight line, but it will continue to increase. Slip is 0, slipping is increased, current has increased. Slip has further increased, current has further increased. Slip has further increased, current has further increased. Slip has furthermore increased, current has increased. Slip takes its maximum value, current takes its maximum value. So it monotonically increases. Unlike torque, which increases, then decreases. That behavior is not there for torque. Current continuously increases. So this is current and this is torque. Hope this is clear. current monotonically increases, torque increases, reaches its maximum value, then decreases. Now we have seen this much portion. Now let's explain why the torque decreases after reaching a maximum value. For which we will have to depend on the equivalent circuit, simplified equivalent circuit. Remember, there is no XM branch because we have involved them in the Thevenin equivalent circuit, removing this. And the role of XM is reflected in RT, XT and VT as well. Now we will be focused only on the secondary rotor side of this one, with from E2 till this portion. That is, the induced voltage is E2, the rotor current is I2 dash, R2 dash by S is the resistance, and X2 dash is the rotor linkage inductance. Actually, it's reactance. Okay. Now, when S is equal to 0, we have already seen that current monotonically increases. As slip increases, current monotonically increases. We have also seen torque is equal to air gap power divided by omega S. And what is air gap power? Power in the rotor circuit, which is nothing but E2, I2. Since it is AC circuit, cos theta R is there. Theta R, where theta R is the angle between I2 dash and E2. It's an AC quantity, so there can be a phase difference between I2 dash and E2. So theta R is that. Cos theta R is the rotor power factor by omega S. Now, for this is a constant. Let's assume this is also a constant. For simplicity's sake, let's write torque is proportional to I2 dash and cos theta R. Rotor power factor, rotor current. This, we have seen that behavior, it monotonically increases. Now, let's see how cos theta R will behave. Now, S is equal to 0, which means the speed is signal speed itself. What will happen to the rotor resistance R2 dash by S? That will be infinity. A resistor is infinity means it is open circuit. Or now we have a reactive part and a resistive part, and this resistive part is infinity, which means this circuit is predominantly or almost completely resistive in nature. If this part is resistive in nature, what will be the power factor? Cos theta R will be equal to 1. Or I2 dash is in phase with E2. This is the meaning. Now, slip increases. We have seen what is this, and now slip is increasing. As slip increases, what happens? R2 dash by S, this term will come down. Now, as I explained earlier, resistive element and reactive element. Now, the value of the resistive element is coming down. What does it mean? The role of or the prominence of this reactance part is increasing. What happens? Power factor of the rotor continues to fall. Power factor of the rotor continues to fall. Or what is theta R? Tan inverse X2 dash by R2 dash by S, or tan inverse Sx2 dash by R2 dash. Now slip is increasing. X2 dash is a constant, R2 dash is a constant, but S is the variable. As S increases, the numerator continuously increases. If the numerator continuously increases, theta R continuously increases. If theta R continuously increases, power factor continuously falls. Now we have two terms, a current which is monotonically increasing and a power factor which is monotonically decreasing. That means we have a current which is increasing and a power factor which is decreasing. Now this results in an interesting observation. Till this part, the increase of I2 dash dominates. From 0 to S max, the effect of increase in I2 dash dominates. And beyond that, that is from this to this, the decrement in cos theta r dominates. Decrement in cos theta r is more than increment in I2 dash. Now what will happen? Earlier, see, this is continuous. This continuously happens right from 0 slip to maximum slip of 1. Current will rise and power factor will fall. Increasing variable, we have a decreasing variable. So till Smax or initial portions of slip, this is more prominent, which means increase in current is much more than decrease in power factor. As a result, torque will rise. This is what we have seen as this curve. After some time, the decrease in cos theta r is much more prominent than increase in I2 dash, which means overall torque will now decrease. That's what you are seeing here. Okay. So during this section, which is the unstable portion of the induction machine, here the decrement in power factor is dominant than increase in current. And at here, the stable portion, the increase in current is more dominating than the decrease in power factor. And that's why we have a Tmax and then decreasing Cara. This explains why the torque speed Cara is something like this. This is completely different from that of a DC machine. Only the initial portion is same. A drooping Cara is same as a AC-DC machine. But the AC-DC machine does not have this kind of Cara. In DC machine, if the current increases, definitely the torque has to increase. But here, that is not so. Current increases, torque will increase up to Smax. Because after Smax, current continues to increase, but torque is not increasing, torque is falling. This peculiar nature of induction machine makes this machine difficult to control. But we have seen why is this shape like this. If you plot the original equation, then you will get, if you use a tool like MATLAB or Simulink or a LT Spice or something and plot it, definitely you will get the Cara what we are seeing now. I was just trying to give a qualitative, not a quantitative, a qualitative treatment to this equation and to predict why this kind of a shape is there for T omega. Hope the concept is clear. Now we have seen the torque, shape of the torque as well as shape of the current. Now I have already told, now let's give some, let this be point A, this point corresponding to omega is point A, this is B, this is C. Let these 3 points be there in the torque T omega curve of induction machine. Now I have told and you have already learned AB is stable region, BC is unstable zone. Now over and above that, assume that we have a constant load torque, something like this. Here. Now it has 2 operating points in the T omega Cara. Let it be X, let it be Y. X is in the stable zone and Y is in the unstable zone. Now I think you already know how to analyze why this point is stable and why is unstable and why this point is stable. But I'm not going into the details of that. Just give a small disturbance to each of this operating point and see once the disturbance is removed, is it going back to the same point or is it going to some other point. That way you can check the stability of this operating point. If you do it properly, you will find that Y is unstable and X will be stable. That is, once you disturb it and once the disturbance is removed, it will go back to the same point. Similarly, here if you disturb it and if you remove the disturbance, it will not come back, it will run away and it will reach this stable operating point. That you already know. I am not going to explain that in detail now. Just see the operating point of X and Y. Though I say this is unstable, this is stable for certain kinds of loads. Okay, for a constant torque load, this is unstable, but it is stable. Yeah, anyway, I am not going into the details of that. You please refer a good machines book to see that. For fans, pumps, compressors, that kind of load, even this portion is stable. Okay, so let's not go deep into that thing. Here you have 2 operating points, point X and operating point Y. Where should you operate? Suppose you have a special type of a load, a fan load, where you can operate in X as well as operating point Y. The flip side we have in this zone is that it is unstable, but for fan loads they are stable. So let's say here also it is stable, here also it is stable. Okay, generally we say this is unstable, but for peculiar types of loads this is stable. I have a peculiar type of load, and given a choice, where will you operate? Will you operate at point X or will you operate at point Y? That is the point being discussed. Either way, the load torque is satisfied. Only difference is that this is it. This operates at omega x corresponding to operating point X, and this operates at omega y corresponding to operating point Y. So this operates at a larger speed and this operates at a smaller speed. If I am not bothered about speed, as long as it is rotating, I am not bothered about speed. So can I operate it at point Y? Normally we would not prefer it to operate at point Y. That is not because of instability, that's not because of low speed, but there is something else. See, what is the value of the current? This is, let it be operating point P corresponding to operating point X. That is when the machine is operating at X, it is drawing this much amount of current. And when it is operating at point Y, it is let it be Q. This is the operating point in current. Now see, this is Ix. This much is Ix from 0. And if it is operating here, this much is it's IP actually. Okay, IP IQ. Or you can also write Ix and Iy. Anyway, so remember this equation, this graph is pretty important. That's because for a constant torque, the machine can have two operating points, one in the AB zone and the other one in BC zone. Here we call it as unstable, and this is called unstable. Stable, unstable. If I am not bothered about the stability of the operating point, or I have a special type of load which is stable for both the operating points, then which operating point should I choose my drive to operate? That is determined by the current drawn by the machine. See, the current drawn by the machine when it is operating at X is substantially lower, only this much. Whereas when it operates at the same load in the BC zone or the unstable zone is much larger than this, for the same amount of torque, which means your efficiency is poor. Efficiency is poor at operating point Y.